everybody, welcome back to Garden Time with Belle. Thanks for being here today. Well, I'm coming to you first from my kitchen because by the looks of things, you might think I was getting ready to host a party. I've got all these wonderful little cups here, but what I need to do first for my gardening project today is I need to put some holes in the bottom of all of these cups. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use this soldering tool. It gets super duper hot, and I'm just going to go around the bottom of my cups and put some holes in it because later I'll take you down to the greenhouse, and when we're in the greenhouse, I'm going to be filling these with a really good potting soil and getting them ready to hold some of my transplants. You know, I'm starting 22 varieties of seeds this year, flower seeds, vegetable seeds, and they're growing pretty well, but I need to take them out and separate them and give them a bigger vessel to grow in. So that's what I'm up to this morning, and I have to give props to this idea to my sweet gardening friend, Missy. Missy is quite an avid gardener. I think she said last year she grew like 200 tomato plants and actually was able to sell them to some of her colleagues. She's a teacher at one of our local high schools, and so in order to have that many plants to sell, she starts everything from seed and then bumps them up into these larger containers and continues to grow them on, and then is able to sell them as single plants. So she gave me the idea of, instead of trying to poke a hole in flimsy plastic, to use a very inexpensive soldering tool that gets super hot, and you just poke holes around it, melts the plastic, and creates really good drainage for your little plant. So that's what I am up to today. What else was I going to share with you in terms of getting these ready? I think that's about it. So anyhow, I'll get a closer shot of how this little soldering tool works, and I have some work to do because I've got 22 varieties of flowers and vegetable plants, and a lot of them are going to be separated out today. And so I actually went to the dollar store to pick these up, and you know me, I love color, so you know, we all know what the red Solo cups are, but I got these very inexpensive cups at the dollar store, and aren't they pretty? And they're gonna have some pretty plants in them too, hopefully. So anyhow, yeah, so hang out with me today. I'll get my cups ready, and then we'll go down into the greenhouse, and I will take you along as I separate out those new seedlings so that they can grow on in the next 2 or 3, 4 weeks before we plant them out in the garden. Or I'm guessing I'm gonna be giving away a lot of plants. So come along for the ride. So step one is complete. I've got 64 cups here that I was able to put those drainage holes in because that's really important once my seedlings get bumped up to this size container that I'm going to need to water on the regular basis, but they need to drain just like your pots outside, just like gardens need good drainage for healthy roots. Same thing applies to seedlings. So yeah, so I'm going to load up my cups and I'll meet you in the greenhouse. So I've made it out to the greenhouse, and now I've got to take a look at my seedlings and decide which ones of these do I need to bump up to the bigger containers that I worked on in the kitchen. So I'm gonna be showing you all what I've got out here and what I'm thinking in terms of which one of these need to be separated out and put into the cups. And so I'll just swing around here. Let me change the view and just show you all the supplies I'm gonna need. So I've got my cups with the drainage holes. I've got some plant tags. I might tag them individually with these little plant tags, or I may take my favorite garden marker and just mark on the outside, especially if I bump up the tomatoes. I'm growing several varieties, so I think it'd be good if they had labels on them. So that's my plan. If y'all don't know about this garden marker brand, check it out. These markers are amazing. I have been using them for years. They stay. They are way better than Sharpies in terms of marking tags and putting them out in the landscape. They hold up great. In fact, on one of my previous videos this spring, you saw me. I don't know if I have any of them in here. Oh yeah, you saw me. Let me go back up while I'm doing this and see if I can get it. You saw me trying to get last year's labels cleaned off so I can reuse these, because I hate to waste plastic, and the garden markers had held up, and I had to end up using actually paint thinner in the very end to take off the old labels, but now I've got fresh new ones to use this year. So anyhow, all right. Here we go. So I've got Gomphrena, and I had great germination. As you can see, I've got 2 in each cell. Stalk, I've got 2 or 3 in each cell. So these are gorgeous flowers. Here's probably where I'm going to start today, though. These represent my tomato seedlings, and in this cell alone, I've got 6 tomatoes that germinated. So I think I'm going to start there today and see how far I get. So I'll be pulling these out, separating them. I'm going to probably return 1 back to each cell, but the other ones I think I'm going to bump up. My pepper plants also could probably use some separating, because most of my cells here have 2 in each, so separate those out. Let's talk about the struggle bus. These, snapdragons. I don't know what I did wrong, you all. And these represent pansies. Like, forget it. Like, I've tried and tried. I didn't do anything differently with them than I did all my other seedlings, which, as you can see, did amazing. And I really want to be able to grow snapdragons, but they're a cool weather crop, and there's no way this is going to be ready for spring. I mean, spring is here. It's going to be over soon. So I think this one might have to go in the compost heap. I've got salvia and agastache. I've got lots of celosia that's come up, but they're still pretty small yet, so I think they can remain here. Oh, here is my parsley. So you know, when seeds first germinate, you get these 2 little, I think they're called Catalan seeds. I'll put the proper botanical name up on the screen. So that's the first seed, the first leaves that come up, but it's really the true leaves. When they talk about true leaves, they're talking about the leaf that comes up that really looks like the plant. And in this case, these are parsley plants. So can you see this right here? I wouldn't want to do anything with this one yet because it doesn't have any true leaves. These are the little new leaves, but you want to wait until you start seeing true leaves. Oh, my focus isn't great. Like that. So yeah, and my marigolds, oh, easy peasy to grow, and look at that. They did really, really well, and I'm leaving those alone because there's only 1 in each cell. I didn't overseed these because they have such a great germination rate that I was confident 1 in each cell would probably work, and I think all of them germinated, but I think this one, that one's gone, but that's pretty darn good, I'd say, huh? So yeah, so I think tomatoes, they're going to be the first crop that I start separating. So now it's time for me to separate out some of these. And so I've got 8 varieties of tomatoes. So I think I want to start with my favorite tomato of all time, and that's the heirloom Cherokee purple. And so I got those in these 2 cells. And so I'm going to use my handy dandy tongs. You've seen me use these before. I purchased these from Garden Supply. I'll put a link in the description for you all, for those that are interested. And so as you can see here, I've got 4 healthy tomato plants. And look at those beautiful roots. So I'm going to very carefully tease these apart. And they'll eventually just kind of separate out. Look at those roots. I'll lay them down here so I can work with them a little bit better. Yeah. So now you can see the individual plants. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to try to transfer at least 3 of these into some of these cups here. And so now I've got my cups ready with slightly moist, slightly dampened Pro Mix potting soil. I'm using potting soil now as they've grown, and I want to bump them up to grow faster. As you may recall, when you start your seeds, it's highly recommended you use seed starting mix, specific mix that's super light and perfect for getting seeds off to a good start. But now that they're big enough and strong enough, I'm going to switch from seed starting mix to this Pro Mix actual potting soil. So I've got a little spot ready to receive this guy, and see all the roots. So I'm going to try to get all those roots down in there and gently, very gently place this guy in here, this Cherokee purple. And again, I'm not sure if I'm gonna label it here with my marker or a tag, but I'm gonna make my mind up on that as I go along. So yeah, so that's the basic process for getting them in the cups. So I need to get busy and work on the rest of these, and I'll bring you along for that. So here you can see what I was just describing, where I left only 1 tomato in each cell versus the 4 or 5 that I had. And I'm gonna need to, of course, water these in. And I'm expecting these little guys and the ones that I bumped up, I'm expecting them to go through a little bit of a shock phase, because you know I had to tease those roots apart, and it's going to take them a few days to recuperate from that. But here's what I want to show you next. So here are some basil seeds that I started, and I've got several in each cell. So rather than me pull these up and tease them apart because they're so tiny, I'm going to do the snip it, nip it method, which I've seen others do. And so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to choose the smaller of the 2, and I'm just going to snip that off. So So that guy's gonna be sacrificed. He's gonna go to the compost heap, and I'll leave this one to grow on and get bigger and be ready to plant out in the garden. So that's what I'm gonna do next. I'm just gonna come in here and I'm gonna snip out all but the biggest, strongest one, and hope with these little tiny pruners that I'll be able to do that. So see, I've got one left there. Over here, this guy looks to be the strongest and biggest. So I'm gonna come in here with my nippers and I'm gonna remove these two and leave this guy to have more space to grow on. So I'm gonna finish this whole section of basil up by snipping and nipping, and I'll show you the results. All right, so now you can see where the basil here on the left has been thinned out, and here's my little sacrificial starts. And so this tray needs a drink for sure after having gone through some trauma today with being snipped and nipped. So we'll just give them a little drink, not too much. I'll be setting this back on the tray. You know how I like to use the self-watering trays that water from below, but I just thought I'd put a little water on them now to settle them in before I put them back in their original tray. Next up, my pepper plants. So you can see here, if I come in close, they had amazing germination rates, and I tried to place 2 seeds in each cell, and I tried to place them kind of catty-cornered so that when I did want to come in and separate these out, it would be a bit easier. So that's what I'm going to tackle next. And just as an FYI, what am I growing? I am growing the Cali Wonder, a Sugar Rush pepper, an Etuda, a lunchbox. Those are those little small snacking sweet peppers. I'm growing a hot Antiplano and a hot Jedi. So 2 kinds of hot peppers, and the rest are bell or sweet peppers. So time to get after this. So just like I did with the tomatoes, I'm going to use my tongs, and I'm going to start with the Cali Wonder peppers, gently pulling that out. And here I've got 2 healthy plants. Oh, that was easy. I'm going to tease them apart. I'm going to put one in a bump up in one of these yellow cups over here. And I think I'm going to put this one, I'm going to place it back in its original tray and let it grow on to maturity in this spot. So that's the plan. As you saw me earlier, just taking these, filling them up with that really great Pearl Mix potting soil, moving it around so it can receive this little plant. Gently making sure none of the roots are exposed, and so pushing it down just ever so gently. And then I need to label it. So I'm gonna get after this tray, and I think that's gonna probably be it for today. So I'll come back and show you the final results. Everybody likes a good after, and here is the after. Check this out. So these are the 2 trays that I thinned. This was a tray full of pepper plants, 5 different varieties. This was a tray of tomato starts and some basil. And so they still have 1 in each cell. However, this represents all of the individual tomato and pepper plants that are gonna get a chance to grow up and get stronger and have more space. I think I counted 53 total of those cups full of starch. So my very last step is to water them in a little bit and decide where in the world in my greenhouse I'm gonna put them. I think I'm gonna leave them right now on the bench where they're sitting for a few days. And then if I feel like I need to shuffle them around with some of my other starts, you've seen my geraniums, I've got loads of those. And of course, I'll need to be thinking about in the next couple of days thinning out some of these as well. So one step at a time, but oh my goodness, these are gonna make great gifts for my friends and family, and oh, it's just gonna be wonderful.